Alright, if you are subscribed to Shad, you knew this was coming. And you should be subscribed to Shad, because Shad is awesome. So, as typical for this, when I'm responding to Shad, link is in the description, or if you're watching this on Minds, link will technically be above or below, depending on how you're watching it. Now, I don't disagree largely with anything Shad says in his own video, so please watch that before you do this, because I'm going to just kind of jump off of that. So we're going to jump right into the positives of skeletons as soldiers. And this is going to sound a lot like zombies, because they have a lot in common with zombies. Now, do note when I am talking about skeletons, I will be talking about the more classic dumb ones. There's not a lot of intelligent skeletons running around, and when they are intelligent, it's usually an individual, so it's singular or maybe a handful, not the entire army is intelligent. So positives of skeletons. Firstly, they don't eat, they don't sleep, they don't drink, they don't breathe, they don't defecate, they don't do a lot of normal things that normal armies are really that have to deal with, you know? You don't need to dig latrines, you don't need to carry crap with the food. There's just a lot of crap you don't have to put up with them. Then there's a bunch of positives that they have on top of zombies that you don't need. On top of those, they don't rot. There's nothing left. They're just bones wandering around. I mean, I guess you have to deal with all the creaking, because lots of bones rubbing together, and that might get a little annoying, but in general, they're great. It's fantastic. Other benefits skeletons have, I don't even know how you kill one. Well, quotes, kill. Because, much like zombies, in specific fantasy settings, so I'm going to equate this with Warhammer Fantasy, because it's the easiest one for me to do this with. Much like zombies from there, which are simply animated via magic and will keep running until the magic is sufficiently disrupted that they fall apart. That's how skeletons work all the time. Like, it's kind of a universal thing. Skeletons are animated purely by magic. There's no magical disease or anything, because they're just bones. There's nothing there. So all that's holding them together is magic. And as you beat the crap out of them, the magic eventually is disrupted sufficiently that they fall apart. This can take a lot of damage. Okay? Swords are crap against them. Spears, one of the most common battlefield weapons, crap against them. Bows, laughable. Skeletons don't give a crap. The only thing they're actually concerned about are large, blunt impacts, because there's an awful lot of force going behind them. So, yeah, positives, lots of those. Another positive on top of the zombies is that skeletons are, I don't want to say smarter, because not quite smarter, better at fighting, would I guess be the better one? I mean, in general, skeletons are usually portrayed at being at least a bit better at beating the crap out of people with weapons than zombies are. To use a really bad pun, weapon usage is in their bones. Because I can't call it muscle memory, because they don't have muscles. So, whatever they died with, like if you animate some warrior and he's got a spear and a shield, well, he understands at least the basics of spear and shield. Like he's not going to be a master, even if you resurrect a master as a skeleton. Generally speaking, they don't retain all of that, but he retains enough, basic competence to utilize the spear and the shield, or the axe, or the sword, or whatever weapon of choice they happen to have. Which is great. I mean, they're very good, I guess, bang for your buck, as it were. Downsides to skeletons. Not too many. I mean, the most notable one is a skeleton is extremely light. And when I say extremely light, a skeleton is approximately 15%. Okay, I'll go quick on this one, so I screwed that up. A human skeleton, so this is humans, this might change depending on fantasy, right? A human skeleton weighs about 15% of a human body weight. So let's say someone's 200 pounds. Get a big 200-pound warrior here. That's... You're looking at 30 pounds? About? Your skeleton weighs 30 pounds. Now, the plus side is they don't seem to be any weaker. As Shad points out. I don't disagree with him. I'd say a skeleton is about as strong as whatever they were animated from. There doesn't seem to be any muscle loss, or any appreciable muscle loss, appreciable strength loss. They seem to hit just as hard, They do seem to be a bit faster because there's less weight on them, which makes perfect sense. You know, this even if there was some strength loss, the amount of speed you would gain because there's so much less weight is probably why they seem to hit just as hard. So, Skeleton's issues are they're going to get thrown around like ragdolls. Okay, that's just all there is to it. You have 30-pound... You're fighting something that weighs 30 pounds. So you can just kick them, you can smash them with your shields, you can beat the crap out of them. They don't weigh enough. You do not want to get them into I guess you could say, a hoplite pushing contest. You know, you don't want to get two shield walls up against each other, just shoving at each other to shove them off balance, because the skeletons will lose that. There's no two ways around it. They're going to lose because they don't have enough weight to anchor themselves. And even if they dig their feet into the ground, there's just not enough there. Their own strength's going to push them back, so they're not real great for that. But you are trading off the fact that you're definitely light for basically being immune to arrows. There's nothing to pierce. I mean, unless an arrow gets lucky and flies right through their eye socket or gets a real good hit on their head and knocks their head clean off, what the hell's a longbow going to do to them? It's amazing. Now, some practical considerations you have for skeletons. And this is something where I don't guess I necessarily disagree with Shad, but I saw some people in his comments talking about putting armor on skeletons. Okay? And some people were saying, hey, put full plate on them, because that's like an extra, 60 pounds or, 80 pounds, depending on the suit of armor you're wearing. And that basically put them up to normal human weight, right? Okay. What are you attaching it to? That's part of the problem with skeletons, is that, alright, I'm animating a skeleton, so maybe he's got his armor on him already. But how are you attaching plate? Like what is it stuck to? What are you actually sticking the plate to? That's my question. What are you sticking these plates on? Because, take your arm. Take all the muscle off of your arm. Just imagine that. Your arm bone is probably only a third of your actual arm width. Now, your wrists don't have a whole lot on them, so you can probably stick van braces on and then tighten them really hard up the arm. But pauldrons and things, what are they resting on? They're just sitting right on that. Now, you could probably you'd have to really tighten the armor up for it to actually stay, otherwise they're all rattling around in there. It's not a huge problem, but you're screwing with their mobility, so it's not really worth it. But the second point is, why are you bothering to put full plate on a skeleton? What does full plate make you basically immune to? Piercing and slashing. Okay, you don't give a crap about those two things. Skeletons already don't give a crap about those two things. Do you want to know what you want to put a skeleton in? A really thick gambeson. You can give them really thick gambesons because they don't have any flesh. So you can put really thick gambesons on them without actually really screwing with their mobility. It'd be fantastic. And the only thing they're concerned about is blunt objects. Well, all that padding. On top of this, it's very, very cheap. Seriously, why would you bother putting any expensive armor on skeletons? You're getting them because they're cheap. Their upkeep is really cheap. Recruiting them is cheap because you just go find a mass grave and resurrect them. It's really easy. And their weapons are cheap. I mean, just go give them a crap ton of spears. You don't gotta get fancy here. Spears and shields. That's all they need. Now, I also agree with Shad that skeletons would probably want to go full attack. Yeah, I mean, if you can they could honestly just forego defense completely. And you could just hand them really big two-handed clubs like Tetsubos or Kanabos and just let them beat the crap out of people with them. I mean, they're skeletons. Who gives a crap, right? Problem with that is his weight issues. They might throw themselves over. So maybe spears might just be the best option, just because they can just, thrust real good, thrust real fast. Also, something that's never brought up enough in my opinion, skeleton archers. I completely agree with Shad. Skeleton archers are terrifying. They can just sit there and hold all freaking day. They don't have muscle fatigue. They don't even have muscles. Just hold those bows all day. And then shoot you in the face. Well, I actually don't know how they'd aim. You know what? Don't go down that rabbit hole. Don't try to figure out how skeletons see, because you're never going to get a satisfactory answer, so don't bother trying. But yeah, skeletons, defensively, fantastic. In a damage-taking stance. I mean, getting thrown around is kind of bad. But offensively, just as good as a normal human. Maybe a little worse because, humans can get better and increase in skill, and skeletons don't seem to be able to do that. So, for basic fodder purposes, very good, very excellent. Cheap. Keep them cheap. There's my stance on skeletons. Keep them very, very cheap. Do not go and put them in full plate, because they don't really benefit from putting them in full plate. Put them in a gambeson. That's much better. And, maybe give them some belt pouches with, 20, 30 pounds of lead in it. Give them some weight so they can't get shoved around so much. That might help. I don't quite know. So, final grade on skeletons. I know this one's a little short, but there's not too much to go off here. Final grade on skeletons. B-, maybe a B. They're good at what they're good at, which is basically being immune to ranged weapons. I mean, that's a full letter grade in and of itself. Okay, that takes you automatically from a D to a C just by itself. There's no effort involved there. All basically ignoring logistical supply trains. That gets you up at least into the B section, and then they just fight as good as normal humans after that. Roughly, there's some advantages and disadvantages. The most disadvantages are coming from weight, but there's a lot of positives and a lot of negatives. Of course, the negatives are you have to have lots of freaking necromancers babysitting them, and that's really annoying because it means you have to have a lot of mages on payroll. But you're cheaping out on skeletons, so I think it kind of evens out in the end. So, yeah, B. They're definitely better than zombies in my opinion. Just because zombies are really, really, really dumb. And I mean, they're really dumb. Skeletons are also dumb, but they're at least, they're better at wielding swords and axes and things. So yeah, again, final, give them a solid B. Maybe a B+, depending. But they're definitely good. Alright, everybody, so remember to like, share, subscribe, remind, all that good stuff. And I will see you all later.